do you believe in human monsters?
Could you kill a human monster?
And do you know a human monster?
All this and more on Gory Storytime.
Warning. Gory Storytime is a horror movie review show by a son and his dad who thought that letting his 5-year-old watch scary movies was acceptable. If you are offended by horror or talk about blood and gore by a child, or if you don't want horror movies from the 60s through today spoiled, then there is a remote stuck in your couch cushion next to potato chip crumbs. Use it. And of course, parental discretion is advised.
Why? You didn't use any.
Shut up and start the show.
Welcome to Gory Storytime. I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig. And this week, well,
We're
first
doing
things first, haha.
The answers to that instead of forgetting them.
Yes. The questions from before the episode began, the answers are yes, yes, and I mean, I'm divorced. Match those up for humor, I guess. Anyway, this week, we're probably going to make this our last one, even though we usually do 4. Movies that are not horror, but are horrific. And this week we're doing 8mm.
Yes.
We've done 1 hour photo, and then the last one we did before we had a week
Was
off
The Butterfly
was
Effect.
The Butterfly Effect. And these are all good movies, but they're not technically horror. But if they were happening for real, they are horrific.
Oh, yeah.
They're horrific movies, not horror movies.
Absolutely that.
And I don't mean the movies are horrifically bad. I mean
They're
the
horrific
things,
as in
the content.
if that stuff happened in real life.
Yeah. Anyway,
And
I
some
think
of it
we've
sadly does.
bloviated enough about
Yeah.
what we mean.
In case you don't understand.
Basically, here's the premise. A really rich politician passes away. His wife and their lawyer come across a film in his vault or safe, and on it is the murder of a woman in a pornographic film. And basically, the wife wants to know, was it real? Is there any, she didn't want to go to her grave knowing that her husband basically paid to have a woman killed on film for his own deviant pleasures. She was hoping it was not that. I won't give it away, but I will say it's a very thrilling movie. It's like a thrill ride.
It is a
the whole
thriller
time.
for sure.
But anyway, anything else really before we show them the trailer?
Well, I mean, other than you didn't really get into the part where then she hires a private detective to find out whether or not it was real.
Yes,
and
that's Nicolas Cage.
Yes, he
finds
a lot of things.
Yeah, he does his job well and finds
Uncovers
out
secrets that people didn't want uncovered.
Whether or not the film was real or not, I won't give away, but uncovered a lot of things.
I mean, he made Tony Soprano sweat.
Okay, he wasn't Tony Soprano in this, but nice.
Or Mike something, I don't know.
Anyway.
All right.
Let's throw the trailer on and let them see.
This is the mortgage, Cindy's college money. If I do right by Mrs. Krishnan, the circle she runs in, this could be the break we've been waiting for. Can't take longer than a couple weeks. That's all I can tell you, honey. Sometimes you can't know what I'm doing. It's better that way.
It's always that way.
You come highly recommended, Mr. Wells. You're praised for your discretion.
Thank you, ma'am.
As you know, my husband passed away recently.
Yes.
My husband was the only one with the combination to this safe. These were my husband's private things. I didn't realize.
Do you want to tell me what you found, Mrs. Krishnan?
Private Detective Tom Wells is one of the only people who has seen it. It is 8 millimeters wide. It runs at 16 frames per second. And he has been hired to discover.
All I want is to know that this atrocity is false. I want the proof of it.
If what's on it is real.
Finding the guys who made this film is going to be very difficult. I need information. I thought you might be able to help.
You name the vice, I name the price. I'm gonna tell you, there's things that you're gonna see that you can't unsee. They get in your head and they stay there.
Some doors should never be opened.
Tom, where are you?
You dance with the devil. The devil don't change. The devil changes you.
Because once you go through,
I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay.
There is no going back. Nicolas Cage.
I'm trying to understand!
Wherever you were, just forget about it.
I can't. There's no one left to finish this but me.
8mm.
Well, all right. I think that trailer pretty much said the thing that we said before we threw it to the trailer.
Except with pictures and Nicolas Cage.
But before we get into our review of the actual movie, we got to tell the people what we're actually here for.
Oh, yeah.
We're here to pimp ourselves out for big corporations that want to give us tons of money. Just back up that old Brinks truck, as I like to say.
Oh, absolutely.
And just do. And this week...
We don't even have a home. We just have a giant pit in the ground. It's super deep.
Full of money?
Full of money that we swim around in.
But don't worry, we also have like a moat with sharks around it, so you're not getting
we have this giant protective dome so no one can come in.
The one
Keeps
from The
us warm.
Simpsons, it's like covers most of a town.
Yeah, that's where we live, is in a dome like The Simpsons had.
People who live in glass domes shouldn't throw... Never mind.
Yeah.
But anyway, this week, the real things that actually exist are... Let's see. Gory Story Time is brought to you by Rich Fuggett, attorney at law. With a 100% success rate, Rich Fuggett is one lawyer that can promise you you'll never be held responsible for your actions. Why fret about those accusations by the police when you can afford the best? Whenever he walks into a courtroom, judges have been known to say, this case is dismissed because he's Rich Fuggett. Rich Fuggett, attorney at law. Lawsuit? Say Fuggett. Gun charges? Say Fuggett. No matter what the charges, say Fuggett.
I mean, he's got me. All right. And by Nicholas's Restaurant, the only restaurant in the world where the food is guaranteed to be great about half the time. The rest is, well, poorly executed. One trip, Nicholas's will have you thinking it's one of the best restaurants ever. The next, you'll find it dry and lacking in substance. We also promise that no matter what you order, it will come with at least some cheese. Nicholas's Restaurant is, it might be good this time.
It might be good this time. That's their slogan.
I want a shirt from them.
Anyway, all right. Now, before we get into the behind-the-scenes stuff, is there anything else you want to really bring up?
I mean, find you a way to see it. I think when I looked it up, it was on one of those free streaming services.
Oh, like
we just ended up watching it on
like
DVD.
Pluto or Tubi or something.
I think it's on Pluto.
Google it, and if you have a paid service and it's on it, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
just,
get you a way to watch this movie
it's
if
really
you
good.
have the stomach to watch something kind of messed up.
It's one of the better ones, but dark. It is dark.
It's super dark.
Let's see. Russell Crowe agreed to do the film with Joel Schumacher when the film was slated to be a dirty, handheld, gritty thriller. Crowe had one stipulation to all this, and it was a scene where his character is looking at the kiddie porn and throws it in the trash. He also throws a cigarette so it would start burning inside the trash can. Schumacher agreed. Then, out of the blue, Nicolas Cage's agent called Schumacher and told him that he wanted to do the film as well. Schumacher then contacted John Calley at Sony and said, hey, if we do the film with Crowe, it'll be low budget, in a dirty handheld camera thriller, or we could have a bigger film with Cage. Callie agreed to do the film with Cage as the lead which eventually led to a bigger budget.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There we go.
Nicolas Cage's Oscar award for Leaving Las Vegas makes a cameo in the film. Look for it wrapped up in black string laces on Eddie Poole's desk when Cage breaks in to tap Poole's phone.
The film's production encountered concerns regarding the dark subject matter, and the studio asked Andrew Kelvin Walker to lighten the film's tone. With Schumacher as director, Walker felt a rewrite would no longer be needed. As it turned out, Schumacher supported the studio and made the changes on his own, leading to a much publicized fallout between the two, with Walker virtually disowning the film and walking away from the set. He refused to even watch it.
David Fincher was the first choice to direct this film.
Director Joel Schumacher states that he's still proud of this film 2 decades later.
Makes sense. The studio did not like the film, fearing the content was too dark and the film would flop. Despite some good reviews and the fact that it made money at the box office, Amy Pascal took a lot of heat for greenlighting it at the time, despite its current cult status.
The scene where Amy Morton, who plays Marianne Matthews' mother, breaks down and cries on the phone to Nicolas Cage was filmed in a small room in the same house from earlier in the film. It was done in 2 takes. This was one of the final scenes to be shot in the film. Cage was wired to a phone in the other room, talking to her the whole time. After the second take, Morton was so unnerved by the experience, she asked director Joel Schumacher to tell her that this would never happen to me in my life. Schumacher said that she was a basket case momentarily and gently carried her soon after. He also stated that she gave a riveting performance during the scene.
The original script by...
That's the same information. Look at that.
Where?
I read the thing that Walker's script was rewritten by Schumacher. This is just a shorter version of that statement.
Oh, what the heck?
Yeah, so why don't you go to the next one?
Okay. The plot is extremely similar to that of Hardcore, in which a man, George C. Scott, hires a private detective to track down his daughter after she runs away and he sees her in an 8mm porno movie. The plot is also very similar to a book called The Cutting Room by Louise Welsh, in which an estate auctioneer finds disturbing photos among a client's porno collection and endeavors to find out if the girl in the pictures was actually killed.
The location of the final battle between Tom and Machine was a great place to shoot, according to Schumacher, because the neighbors and owners of the houses were very hospitable. In turn, Schumacher gave them signed posters of his Batman movies and T-shirts and assorted gifts for their hospitality.
Mark Wahlberg turned down the role of Max California.
The anima porno film seen in the porn swap meet is genuinely an S&M film that was heavily edited to be included into the main movie.
That makes sense. That it would be edited at least. The scene where Tom stalks Machine at his house in Queens, New York, was actually found by Joel Schumacher himself as they were driving one day to the location where the Christian mansion was supposed to take place in Long Island. Schumacher spotted the house on a dead-end street next to a cemetery next to the Long Island Expressway and thought it was the perfect location for the Machine's house.
The graffiti-covered buildings shown in the film are all that's left of some radar buildings built by Howard Hughes.
Don Creech, Mr. Anderson, is the keeper of the Muppets for the Jim Henson Company. He takes care of and repairs the thousands of Muppets created over the years.
The red light district in Hollywood, where Nicolas Cage drives around and sees all types of different people, were created by a production designer named Gary Wisner, according to director Joel Schumacher, since those areas were cleaned up and non-existent at the time as in the cities like New York.
Writer Andrew Kevin Walker did not visit the set or was not interested in the production after his script was toned down to make it filmable. Director Joel Schumacher simply stated that he was in a bubble and in demand with other projects as a polite way of saying he disowned the film.
The Aphex Twin song, Come to Daddy, is played twice. The first time, it's the theme song to a hardcore porn flick. The second time, it's actually played as the background music to the film. Upon Nicolas Cage's entering of the bad guy's house. Also, the music video for Come to Daddy is being played on a small TV in Dino Velvet's office.
According to Joel Schumacher, this was one of the most dangerous scripts that Sony has ever bought and couldn't find a director for.
And the film was originally rated NC-17 and took about 4 or 5 edits to get it down to an R-rated film. Schumacher learned that he could not go forward with 4 consecutive scenes of simulated graphic images. After several edits, the film satisfied the MPAA after making drastic cuts.
And then there's also the...
Oh, I know what mine is. So
yeah.
Now is the time where we give the
Rotten Tomato scores.
Yes. And again, for those who don't know, Rotten Tomatoes does not come up with a score of 1 to 100 that the film is. What they do is they aggregate all the positive and negative scores, and the percentage that they give is the number of positive reviews it got. Not number, like the percentage.
Yeah.
So, there could be hundreds of reviews, whatever, but this is the percentage that thought it was good. 23% of the people, because they also do it, said that they thought this was a good movie, meaning it's pretty low. What about?
52% from the critics.
Usually we don't agree with the critics, but more of them seem to get it right because this was a good movie. It still should be higher. More people should like this movie. I think a lot of it has to do with the dark topic of a young runaway possibly being murdered on film for the pleasure of a rich, white suburbanite guy.
Right. Very much that.
Like, that is a triggering topic. I get that. I'm not big on everything triggering everyone for everything, but I get this topic is pretty rough.
I mean, there's a lot of other topics that come up in the movie, too. Like
child stuff,
animal stuff.
Yeah. So, like, if those topics disgust you and you can't handle watching it, then don't watch it. But if you can watch a movie about those subjects, because
it doesn't actually show.
No, and you're following people that are, like, you're following the guy that's trying to put a stop to it if it's
real, he's trying to stop it, and if it's not real, he's just trying to find out.
All right. What was your favorite scene in this movie?
Okay. My favorite scene is probably at the end. So, spoilers. When he finds out whether or not it is or isn't real, the people involved...
You dummy.
Right. He wants to hurt them and can't do it for himself, so he asks for permission from the girl's mother.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it better. Because, I mean, I'd be able to do it for me.
He really, really wants to take out someone that he thinks of as a monster. And he kind of wants the okay from someone outside of himself.
Because he doesn't feel like doing it for himself would be right.
But doing it for a mother grieving the loss of her daughter, on the other hand.
A-okay.
Okay. My favorite scene would probably be, there's a couple of them, but when he catches up to the last 2 people. Because there's a confrontation where there's like 3 people attacking him. He has to chase down 2 of them at separate occasions.
Yes.
And both of them equally. I like the one with... James Gandolfini better than the one with the guy who played the machine.
Yeah.
But both of them were good for different reasons. Just good fight scenes.
Fight scenes.
You could call it taking out the trash.
Very much that. I'd say my least favorite.
Yes.
Right?
That's the next thing.
Is when the woman found out she killed herself.
She couldn't live with the
I
knowledge that a man
she
loved paid to have someone killed on film and then touched himself to it. Like, the fact that she could love a man that was capable of that, she couldn't...
It's like, okay, we have enough messed up stuff happening in this movie. Do we need to add suicide?
I mean, but that is very realistic that someone that found that out...
It is realistic.
Like, there's a lot of people that wouldn't be able to handle it that way. There's people like me that wouldn't. I would just put it all on the person that it deserves.
Yeah.
But, she was hurting because the man she loved was
A monster.
willing and able to be that kind of a monster. Yeah.
And that's why I was hesitant to use the word human earlier when it was written human monster, because it's like to give them that word is a privilege that they don't deserve.
Well, physically they're humans. I'm just saying.
That's not what's inside that husk.
Well, I'm not saying they got clean souls anywhere. But, all right. My least favorite part, honestly, is probably I don't know, man, because so many things that I didn't like it makes sense for the context of the movie.
Right. I mean, it was kind of nitpicky what I did, too, because it's like, it's the next logical step in the story that they were telling.
Yeah. I guess, if anything, it's the fact that there was a couple of times where a really good private eye got caught because he didn't do basic, simple things that would have kept him from getting caught.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that whole confrontation before the two I was talking about as my favorite wouldn't have happened had he not insisted on being there for what he... I'm not going to give it away, but he asked someone to do something, and then he insisted on being there, and then turns out he got harmed.
Right.
But anyway...
Because he wasn't there to make sure it got done the way he wanted.
There's just a few times throughout the movie where it's like...
if he had been better at double-checking... If he had been better about double-checking, triple-checking... You
can't show him doing things perfect, and then a couple things where it's just such an obvious mistake.
It's like, I wouldn't have made that mistake.
It's like,
and I would have made mistakes on the big stuff that he was doing. So it's like, come on.
But that would be... So on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate 8mm?
I'm going with a 9.
It's not 9mm. That's a weapon.
It's even the kind that he had in the movie.
Yeah. I'm going to go and say I'll probably give it an 8. Not even ironically, just in general. It's really good, but there's enough little nitpicky stuff where it's like, ugh.
I think that's why it
but
goes
I highly
down to
suggest
a 9
it. I mean,
for
an
me.
8 out of 10 is super good. Like,
yeah, if you watch our show, you know how we rate things.
We don't usually go 9 or 10, and
we really don't. Like,
lately,
for the most part, movies are like 6,
high.
7, maybe 8 at the high end.
I mean, I'm a Freddy super fan, and
most of those
none of them got
6.
a 10.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely not.
Anyway, why don't we throw it to the stuff that's on the side of the screen?
Yes. You can watch this show on channel... you can watch Fact TV on channel 1076, Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Fridays at 7 p.m. for this show.
You can follow us on Facebook, and by us, I mean you can follow Gory Storytime, and you can follow Fact TV, and if you do that, Fact TV live streams it a lot of times when we're recording.
And if you're watching it live, hi. If you're not watching then how'd you hear me?
No, if you're not watching it live, you could be watching it on air.
And if you're not watching it?
And if you're not watching it, hey. No,
it's nice to be heard.
We rarely watch it.
Okay.
Next for you.
You can go to factday.com and watch a bunch of the back episodes of this. You can go and see all the other lovely programs that they run on this channel up on their website.
A lot of people in the area do
a lot of programming on this channel, considering it's a local
television. Yeah.
community TV station. Come on.
I mean,
there's a lot.
There is. And I guess the last thing is the Twitter handles, which I'm at Craig Jakes, all one word, all lowercase.
I'm at Jiggly Firm Brain. I tweet funny things that this guy says in or out of context. However, I find best to make it sound worst.
Yeah, and if you don't have a dark sense of humor, he loves putting things up there that sound awful.
On purpose.
Because they also sound funny.
That's the reason.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And that's it, right?
So, until next time, I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and father, Craig.
And sweet dreams.